as far as being a staff writer, you know, I think a lot of people that want publishing deals, new writers or unsigned writers, aren't really ready for them. And the reason I think that is because they don't have the catalogs.
Right.
You know, if you've written 20 songs in your whole life, you might not be ready for a staff writing deal. You know, if you've written 5 songs in your whole life, certainly not. Because I know the publishing meetings I've had that have gone really well, the first thing they ask is, great, bring me 10 more songs.
Right.
And before I had some others, like maybe I had 3 songs demoed, the other ones I didn't have work tapes for, I'd freak out. Oh my God, now I have to get this person 10 songs and I don't have them.
Right.
So I think when you said that that's really important that
It is
you
important.
have
Yeah.
some kind, I mean, it doesn't have to be a catalog of 100 songs.
No.
You have some kind of catalog that you're approaching the publishers with.
Right. And the other thing to keep in mind is the quality of those next songs. If you play a publisher 3 songs and 1 or 2 of them blow that publisher away, they love them, just remember that next group of songs that they've asked for or that they want to hear, those are going to need to pass muster as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they wind up listening to 25 or 30 songs out of your catalog, and the only 2 that they really feel like are commercially viable were the first 2 that you played for them, their longing to sign you is going to go down.
Right, right.
Because they want to know that you can write great songs consistently.
Mm-hmm. So is there any other advice or anything that you think that we haven't touched on as far as staff writing publishing deals that people should know about?
No, I really don't think so, except for the fact that once you do cross over that and a publisher is in the process of getting you a contract,
Mm-hmm.
an agreement, that you would be very wise to get a music attorney to look over it.
Okay.
Don't think that just because you have a little bit of of legal knowledge that you know what that contract says if you've never had one before or you've never met with a music lawyer.
Right.
It needs to be looked over by them
Right.
because there are clauses and there are things in there. For example, in the old days, Schedule A or no Schedule a publishing contract said that first publisher owned everything you'd ever written. Whether there was a Schedule A or not, they had the rights to it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got any of those songs recorded or you had any activity on any of those songs while you were there, legally they belonged to that publisher, whether they were on the Schedule A or not.
Scary.
And so you need to know things like that. You need to know what's in that contract, and the only way to really know is to go see a music attorney,
Right.
so that you do know.
Well, and just one other thing about taking meetings with publishers that I wanted to address is one of the things that I always went in my mind. I would go, okay, I'm going to this meeting not for a publishing deal, and I'd have a smaller thing that I wanted to get out of it, something that I felt was palatable, and it was a next step. And this was all based on the feel of the meeting. If I
Right.
felt like the meeting was going well and they were digging what I did, my goal for that meeting was to get a co-write with one
Right.
of their writers.
Right.
And I had never asked, can I write, when I met with Greg Gallo, I never said, can I write with Craig Wiseman? No. What I always asked, if, like I said, based on the feel of the meeting, is, do you have any writers that are newly signed
Right.
that you think would
Would
that
work
I
well
would
with
jive
me.
well
Right.
with?
Yeah. Mhm.
And it 9 times out of 10 it worked.
Mhm.
And that's a way you can kind of get into their camp, and then that publisher is now hearing more of your material without you bugging them
Exactly.
to take more meetings, because now you're writing with their newer writers, which that publisher is spending more time with because they're nurturing that new writer's career. So if you're writing with their new writers, they're going to be a lot more apt at listening, more closely than you are writing with whatever their big dog is.
Exactly.
Because their big dogs are writing hits all the time, and they know what they do and whatever. And you're probably not going to get a co-write with the big guy.
And the
but
big,
the newbie guys,
right.
maybe.
The big guys are also, like I was saying a while ago, earlier, the publisher is more focused on the big guys plugging them in with the artists
Right,
than they really are interested in getting them co-writes with other hit writers.
right.
The surest way to get on a Sugarland project is to write the song with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the surest way to get on there. Now there are some outside things that do make it,
Mm-hmm.
that are songs that they were looking for in particular,
Right.
things that they may not have been able to write themselves or wouldn't have thought to have written.
Right.
But the surest way to get songs recorded is to write them with the artist. So the big dogs, that's what the publisher is focusing on for the big dogs. The Wisemans, the Bobby Pinsons,
Right.
those people, the Brett James.
Mm-hmm.
They're focusing on getting those people plugged in with artists.
Mm-hmm.
But you, as a new writer,
Mm-hmm.
in a new camp, if you can write with some of these younger guys, Jimmy is exactly right. The publisher wants to make their money back.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to invest more of their time listening to the new people, the new writers' songs,
Right.
and trying to get them up to speed than
Right.
they probably are to the big dogs.
Right.
Because there's just an assumption that the big dog songs are
Kinda-
okay.
Yeah.
You know,
Even
that-
if they're not.
yeah, even if they're not written as well as they
Right.
could be, they're going to let some things slide with them that they're not going to let slide
With the new
with
writer.
the newer writers.
So, and also, that goes back to co-writing too. Another way I was able to get co-writes with some newer writers on publishing deals with publishers that I met with is I would say, well, I'm writing with, this writer and that writer that do have names, and that new writer that they just signed may not be writing with those other people.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's why co-writing is really important, and networking yourself like that's important. So when you have a
Huge.
publishing meeting, make sure that you go in there with smaller step goals
Right.
rather than give me a publishing deal. Because if that's going to happen, your relationship with that publisher, it'll evolve to that anyway. I
Exactly.
think. But
And the reality of it too is in these days and times, publishers may or may not be able to sign somebody,
right.
even if they want to.
Mhm.
They may not be able to sign them, even if it would only be for a draw of $1,200 a month.
Mhm.
The money just isn't there.
Mhm.
But staying close to that camp, staying close to the success that publishing company is having
Mhm.
through maybe their big writers,
Right.
writing with those younger writers that are signed there, that they've got an investment in, is a great way, like Jimmy was saying, to get your material heard. It's a great way to get your material demoed. Now, you may have to give up your publishing or give up part of your publishing if you don't want to pay for your half of the
The
demo
demo
or your
cost, yeah.
third or whatever it is. But it very well may be worth your while to do it because you're going to have a representative out there on the street pitching your song.
Mhm. So go into those meetings with small goals in mind.
Right.
Obviously feel the meeting out first. If it's not going well, and you're gonna know, you'll know when a publisher's not digging your stuff. They're not gonna necessarily say this sucks. They might yawn. They
Or
might,
turn it off after
or
the
turn
first
it off
chorus.
at the first
Yeah,
chorus, or
yeah.
blah blah blah, or some things that they might. If they start giving you songwriting advice, you
They're
might not be
probably-
there yet.
Right.
That might not be a good meeting to ask for a co-write.
But it also means if they start giving you songwriting advice, that they obviously see some kind of talent.
Right.
Because they're not going to give songwriting advice to somebody that they feel like doesn't have the talent
Exactly.
to be able to pull it off down the road.
Right. So, and one of the things when you have a meeting, they'll ask you, like, so what are you looking for? I've always been asked that.
Right.
And I never say, I want a publishing deal. Because,
Right.
duh, why else would you be there?
Right.
I always, it was easy for me to say, I'm co-writing with so-and-so. I'd like to, I'm trying to network out and co-write, with some more people and just put it out there. And it also gives them an out to finish the meeting.
It does.
It makes, so if you put it out there at the top of the meeting, it gives them an out to finish up the meeting instead of, hey, bring me more songs. A lot of times they'll go, oh yeah, they'll remember, they want to co-write. Hey, listen, I think you might co-write well with this girl we just signed, blah, 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 she's an artist-writer, da-da-da-da-da, just follow up with me. And then follow up.
And then follow up.
And remind them what they told you.
Give them a couple of days though.
Yeah, or a week or so.
Yeah. Don't go home and write an email and say,
Yeah.
hey, have you talked to so and so yet about
Yeah.
co-writing?
Yeah.
Give them a few days and then follow up.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, like Jimmy was saying earlier, thank them for their time,
Mm-hmm.
thank them for the meeting, and then maybe remind them.
Yeah. And then also, this is just another little tip of mine. When you do start communicating about setting up a co-write with one of their writers, there's a fine line. So they'll go, well, what days do you have open? I always say, what days work best for you guys? And I'll try to make it work on my schedule. But don't say, what days work best for you? I'm wide open. Because that immediately
Right.
tells that publisher, you ain't got nothing going on.
Right.
So, but to let them know, I'll try to accommodate your schedule. It's something nice to do. It looks like, you're really trying to work with them, but it doesn't tell them that you're not actively
That you're not doing
writing.
anything. Right.
So,
Mhm.
that's always important.
That's
But
true.
let's move on. You had mentioned, a publisher might not be interested, or they don't think you're writing consistently. When they've heard 25 of your songs, only 2 of them they feel are really great.
Right.
But sometimes if they really believe in that song, they'll sign it to a single song contract.
Right. Or they will sign a couple of things to a single song contract if financially they just feel like at a certain point that they can't take the $12,000 to $18,000 a year hit on signing a new writer.
Right.
But they feel like they've got something that they at least want to be able to go out and test the waters with.
Right.
They'll sign a single song contract.
And what is that? How does that work?
Those, like the regular publishing contracts, are written and work in different ways. Normally, you want a closed-end contract on a single song deal.
Mm-hmm.
Give that publisher 12 months, or maybe give them 18 months to work the song. Because if they haven't gotten anything going on it, if they're excited about that song,
Mm-hmm.
then in the first, and it's full demoed and it's competitively,
They
the
can take it and go
presentation
with it.
is competitive, their first month and a half is going to be when they hit it the hardest with that song.
Mm-hmm.
Each month that goes by after that first month and a half, they may still remember the song, but it probably will get less and less and less pitches.
Right.
So at some point in time, you want to be able to say, okay, you gave it a shot,
Mm-hmm.
now I get it back.
Right.
And, that's provided that the publisher doesn't have an investment in it,
Right.
which is another good reason to demo your songs and have them pitchable and ready to be pitched when you go see that publisher. But the most important thing with that single song thing is that you've got a beginning and an end point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most of the single song contracts will also say that if a song has activity on it at the time of its cutoff point, that the cutoff point is extended until that activity is over and or until the song is recorded from that activity.
Right.
And the single song contracts here again, they may ask for all the publishing.
Typically they will. Right.
Or if you've got an investment in the song of, $700 or $800 or $1,200 of demo costs, they may split the publishing. They may say, well, since you already got the cost, you covered
Right.
the costs on it, we're not willing to cut you a check
yeah.
for half of it or cut you a check for it, but we will do a 50% publishing deal where, if we get the song cut, we get 50% of it, you get 50%.